It was a quiet morning, and I was sitting at the kitchen table with my laptop. I had been feeling strange for a few days. My throat hurt a little, and I felt tired all the time. At first, I thought it was nothing, maybe just the weather changing. But as the days passed, the feeling didn't go away. I decided to look for answers. I opened my browser and typed, "Why is my throat sore?" The results appeared instantly, and I clicked on the first link. It was a medical website full of difficult words and long explanations. I started reading, trying to understand. Some of the words were new to me, so I copied them and searched for translations. Sore throat, fatigue, infection. The list grew longer with each article I read. The more I searched, the more worried I became. One website said it could be something serious, like a throat infection that needed treatment immediately. Another mentioned possible heart problems connected to feeling tired. My head spun as I read, and I couldn't stop myself. Each new page seemed to have a scarier answer. As I looked through another article, I laughed nervously. This is crazy, I thought. But then, I felt a sharp pain in my throat, and my laughter stopped. Was it real? Or was I imagining it because of all the things I read? I stood up and drank a glass of water, but the feeling stayed. I can't do this, I said out loud. I need to see a doctor. I knew I wasn't a doctor, and searching online wasn't helping. It was time to get a real answer. I grabbed my phone and called the clinic. The receptionist was kind and gave me an appointment for the same day. As I hung up, I felt a little better. At least I was going to see someone who could really help. But a part of me couldn't stop thinking about all the things I had read. What if it was serious? My mind was full of questions as I got ready to leave. The clinic was not far from my house, so I decided to walk. It was a cool, sunny day, but I hardly noticed. My mind was busy, repeating all the strange words I had read online. Sore throat, fatigue, infection. I kept saying them to myself, trying to prepare for my appointment. When I arrived, the receptionist greeted me with a smile. She had short brown hair and wore a light blue uniform. "Good morning. Do you have an appointment?" she asked. I nodded and gave her my name. She typed something on her computer and handed me a clipboard with forms to fill out. As I sat in the waiting room, I noticed the other people there. A woman with a baby was trying to calm her child, and an older man was reading a magazine. The air smelled clean, like disinfectant, and soft music played in the background. I filled out the forms slowly, trying to make sure I didn't miss anything. When it asked for my symptoms, I wrote, "Sore throat and tired all the time." After a few minutes, I returned the forms to the receptionist and sat down again. I checked my phone, scrolling through social media, but I couldn't focus. My thoughts kept going back to the articles I had read. What if I said the wrong thing to the doctor? What if he didn't understand me? A nurse called my name, and my heart skipped a beat. I stood up and followed her down a hallway. She was friendly and tried to make small talk, but I was too nervous to say much. She led me to a small room and told me the doctor would be in soon. I sat on the examination table, my hands resting on my lap. The room was quiet except for the ticking of a clock on the wall. I looked around, noticing the medical equipment and a chart showing different parts of the body. My eyes stopped on the throat diagram. Sore throat, I whispered to myself again, feeling the nerves rise. When the door opened, the doctor entered with a warm smile. "Good morning," he said, looking at a clipboard. "I see you've been having some trouble. Let's talk about it." The doctor sat down on a small chair across from me, holding his clipboard. He was a middle-aged man with gray hair and kind eyes. "So, tell me what's been going on," he said, leaning forward slightly. I took a deep breath and began. "I have a sore throat, and I feel tired all the time," I said, repeating the words I had practiced. He nodded, encouraging me to continue. "It started a few days ago. At first, it wasn't bad, but it hasn't gone away. I looked online." The doctor smiled gently. "Ah, Dr. Google," he said with a chuckle. "What did you find?" I hesitated, feeling a little embarrassed. Some websites said it could be an infection. Others mentioned heart problems. My voice got quieter with the last words. He nodded again, not looking surprised. "It's common for people to search online when they don't feel well. But let's get some real answers. First, I'll ask you a few questions." He began asking simple things, like, "Do you have a fever?" and "Is your throat very painful, or just a little sore?" I answered each one, feeling more at ease as he spoke. His tone was calm and reassuring, and I appreciated how he repeated words like fever and pain, making them sound less scary. When he asked how long I had been feeling tired, I answered, "About 5 days." He nodded thoughtfully and wrote something on his clipboard. "Do you have any trouble swallowing?" he asked. I shook my head. "No, I can eat and drink fine," I replied. "Good," he said, setting the clipboard aside. "Now, let me take a look at your throat." He stood up and took a small flashlight from his pocket. "Open wide and say, 'Ah,'" he instructed. I followed his directions, feeling a little silly. The light was bright, and I could feel him examining carefully. After a moment, he stepped back and smiled. "Your throat is a little red, but there's no sign of a serious infection. Let's check a few more things to be sure, but I don't see anything to worry about so far." His words were comforting, but I still felt a bit nervous. I waited as he moved to check my breathing and temperature, wondering what he would say next. The doctor placed the thermometer in my mouth, and I closed my eyes, trying to relax. The quiet tick of the clock was the only sound in the room. A minute later, he took it out and checked the reading. "No fever," he said, writing something on his notes. He then asked me to take a deep breath and listen to my lungs. I followed his instructions, feeling the cool air as I breathed in and out. He seemed satisfied with what he heard. "Your breathing is normal. No problems there." I felt a little relieved, but still unsure. "So, what's causing all this?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. He smiled kindly, sitting back down. "Well, from what you've told me, it seems like you've been under some stress lately. Maybe you've been working too much, or not sleeping well." He paused. "It could also be the change in weather, which often causes people to feel tired and run down. I thought about it for a moment. I had been working a lot recently, staying late at the office to finish projects. And the weather had been strange, warm one day and cold the next. Maybe he was right. The sore throat could be a result of your body adjusting to all of that, he continued. It's not uncommon. Sometimes, when we don't rest enough, our immune system weakens a bit, and we feel tired or get a mild sore throat. I nodded slowly, starting to understand. It wasn't anything serious, just the result of too much stress and not enough sleep. But, how do I fix it? I asked, still concerned. He smiled again. Rest is key. Try to sleep more, drink plenty of water, and avoid talking too much or straining your throat. If the symptoms don't improve in a few days, we can check again, but I think this is something that will pass with some time. I felt a wave of relief wash over me. No serious illness, just some tiredness. Thank you, I said, smiling at him. He stood up and extended his hand. You're welcome. Take care of yourself, and don't forget to rest. As I walked out of the room, I felt lighter, as if a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. The stress of the past few days seemed to fade with every step I took toward the door. As I left the clinic, I felt a sense of calm that I hadn't had in days. The doctor's words echoed in my mind, rest is key. It seemed so simple, yet so important. I realized I had been pushing myself too hard without even noticing. Now, I was looking forward to taking better care of myself. I had learned that sometimes the solution to feeling unwell isn't a complicated diagnosis, but just slowing down and listening to your body. I pulled out my phone to check the time. I still had a little while before I needed to get back to work. I found a quiet bench outside the clinic and sat down to relax. The sun was shining, and the fresh air felt good. I took a deep breath, closing my eyes for a moment. As I sat there, I thought about everything I had learned, not just about my health, but also about English. I realized I could do more to improve my vocabulary. The doctor had used simple words, like throat, fever, and rest, to explain things clearly. I could practice these words and learn more, so I could always understand what was going on when I visited a doctor or even just needed to describe how I felt. So, I want to share something with you. Next time you feel unwell or want to describe symptoms in English, try to use simple phrases. For example, you can say, I have a headache, or I feel tired. Don't worry if you make mistakes. The important thing is to practice and learn. Now, I have a challenge for you. Think of a symptom you might feel when you're sick, and try to describe it in English. Write it down in the comments below. For example, my throat hurts, or I feel cold. Practice saying it out loud, too. The more you practice, the better you'll get. Remember, learning English is like taking care of your health. It's all about small steps, taking your time, and getting better little by little. Keep going, and don't be afraid to make mistakes. Every mistake is a chance to learn. And just like I learned to rest and take care of myself, I hope you'll take care of your English, too. Every day is a new chance to improve.